Welcome back, friends. Today, we're exploring one of the darkest chapters in the history of the Finno-Korean Hyper War. This tale of destruction and betrayal ensured that peace between the Gnomes and the Canadian Goose warlords would remain impossible for centuries. This is the story of the destruction of GooseTown. At the dawn of the war, the newly crowned King Furio of the Gnomes led his army to the border city of GooseTown. This was no mere town. It was a bustling center of culture and trade, home to a population of Canadian Goose people numbering in the hundreds of thousands. Despite its prominence, the city was utterly unprepared for the sheer size and ferocity of the Gnomish force. Faced with certain defeat, the city's mayor made a desperate choice. Rather than risk the lives of his people in a futile defense, he surrendered the city and opened the gates, hoping the Gnomes would show mercy and allow the civilians to leave peacefully. But King Furio had other plans. As the gates creaked open, Gnomish clans marched in, their banners fluttering ominously in the cold wind. At first, the Goose folk watched anxiously, clinging to the hope that surrender would spare their lives. What followed was not a negotiation. It wasn't even a battle. It was a massacre. King Furio's troops turned their weapons on the civilian population, and chaos erupted. Entire families were hunted down. Every man, woman, and child was slaughtered without exception. The streets ran red with blood as the Gnomish army looted every home and building of anything valuable. And when there was nothing left to steal, they burned the city to the ground. Not even ruins were left. Estimates suggest that somewhere between 300,000 and 400,000 Goose people were killed in what can only be described as an atrocity. The sheer scale of the destruction was unmatched, and yet historians still debate why. GooseTown wasn't a military stronghold. It held no strategic importance to either side. Some argue that Furio wanted to send a message, a brutal warning to any who might resist the Gnomes. Others believe it was an act of unchecked cruelty, born of the new king's thirst for dominance. Whatever the reason, the destruction of GooseTown ensured that the war would drag on for centuries. The consequences were immediate. Word of the massacre spread like wildfire, galvanizing the Canadian Goose warlords into action. Any hope for peace or negotiations was obliterated that day. From that moment on, King Furio was known as Furio the Fuck. Unfortunately, this was only the beginning. The destruction of GooseTown marked the first war crime committed by the Gnomes, but it was far from the last. And as history would soon show, it wasn't even the worst. But more on that in a future video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales from the Finno-Korean Hyper War.